Everybody wants to be an astronaut. Take the long, tall train to the sun.
Hello everyone and welcome to the round of 14 game C with Hjorth, HeccinGoober, Glacier, and Perubian Assassin. Welcome to the Golden Path Internationals, sponsored by myself, I suppose. Glad to have you here, glad to be here. First time commentating anything, so expect a lot of bloopers. This is going to be absolutely fantastic though. Glad to be here and see these players play. Today we have Hjorth, who came out of Group J, won as the first place. That is the same group that Black Shadow has been in, and I think one of today's co-hosts as well, Shady Shade, if I'm not mistaken. Perubian only got third, only in quotation marks, considering everything that's going on in this tournament. That is still a fantastic result. He was actually tied with Sneaker Dead for second place in terms of points. And then he got through the wildcard F as Beast in at least what looks on paper a relatively safe victory. HeccinGoober was one of the few, if not the only, I'm not quite sure, people who got all 20 points. So he won all 4 group games in Group Q. And Glacier came out second in Group S. So today we're going to be looking at a pretty spicy row right from the get-go. We have Lady Jessica, Firm Grip, Gunthopter Joe, and Power Play and Opulence. All 5 of those, I would say, have a pretty good potential to set up a decisive victory, but because they're all 5 there, this is going to be super interesting. In terms of text, we have invasion ships, flagship, 2 very expensive cards, I would say, for the first drop, as well as troop transports, which is going to be very interesting for whoever gets to control or at least contend the shipping track. For leaders, we do have the Baron, Tessia, and Beast set up Lido as well, so we have quite a lot of contention for the influence track. Ekaz, of course, also a threat to be looked at, and Ilban, if Lido is not in the game, could also take a pretty important role. All very, very strong leaders. I think even Ariana and Elisa have their spots. Whoever has played with me before knows that I, as an Elisa main, know her strengths. But yeah, that will be very interesting. I'm not expecting to be either Ariana or Elisa being picked up here, but would be interesting to see. I think the only go-to for a clear deck building strategy would be Ekaz, maybe Ilban. Then we have 3 contenders for a quick race on the tracks. Beast, of course, the only one, again, with maybe Ilban, who is predetermined for a lot of combat. Maybe Baron and Ekaz as well, but we'll see about that. I think with that, we are ready to start. I'll give them the sign that they can start picking leaders, and then let's see where this is going. I'm very excited with this row. That is going to be one heck of a game. Oof. Somebody bring in the, what is it called? The Atomics token. I'm not quite sure what the name is actually. To re-roll the row in Immortality. Ilban first pick from Hjorth. Very interesting. Okay, I love this. Already off to a great start. So for third pick, we have Perubian Assassin, who I know does like some Beast. He's very, very clearly thinking about this. What do you make of this selection, really? I'm taking my hands off. He could be picking anything. to be honest. Maybe not ECAS, but other than that, all of those seem to be, I mean, Ilisa is very unpopular, although we did have, I think, 3 Ilisa victories in the wildcards, which is probably a sign of her being a lot stronger in 3-player matches. Well, the wildcards, of course, all have been 3-player matches, which did change up the meta quite a bit, and people did not have a lot of time to adjust whatsoever. But yeah, that made me very happy when I saw that. 3 Ilisa wins. That's pretty good. Okay, here goes Beast. Not quite unexpected. And now we have Glacier picking. I believe Glacier likes Lido, but I might be wrong on this. Second place, of course, or second position would be very interesting for Baron, especially. Tessia might also go for that. I know that Ilisa also has a lot of fun in second position. Lido is, I mean, is there any position where you can't play Lido, truly? Such a versatile character. Does not really care if he skips out on getting access to shipping early on. He can always just catch up, whatever he wants to do. But this is already so interesting to look at. With Ilban in 4th position and Beast in 3rd. I have a feeling they're going to be duking out in terms of combat. If Baron is picked, however, of course, early combats will be very contested as well from his side. At least during the first 2 rounds. Potentially. Glacier is not very sure of this. I would be either. I mean, again, looking at the Imperial role, what would you even get as any of those characters? What route could you go? I feel like Firm Grip could be very good for both Baron and Lido. And even Tessia, of course. Not a very seasoned Tessia player myself, so I might be missing some of the stuff that is going on with her and what she can do. Apologies in advance. And it is Lido in 2nd position. Very flexible pick. Can adjust to almost any situation. And currently he is the only one who, as per default designation, goes for a lot of influence with the different factions. So that's gonna be very, very dangerous. Could end up being a very fast victory if people don't watch out for that, or if he doesn't have a different contender. But there's Tessia Vernius, so now we have 2 for the faction shenanigans. Lots of shuffling. Here we go. Okay, that is a strong hand for Ilban. Medium for Lido. Both influence cards on Beast's side, which could be very interesting to him if he can get hold of the victory point coming up in combat. It is the water skirmish with a victory point. And Tessia does have one of the required influence cards as well, one of the diplomacy style cards. And we're off to see the game of the round of 14 Game C, out of which 2 will come out ahead and directly go into the quarterfinals, whereas the best 8 third places will also advance. 4th place is definitely eliminated. So will be interesting to see if people necessarily strive for victory in the first place. I think with Tessia and Lido in the game, that might also be just a way to secure second or at least third place to just run on those faction tracks. But yeah, Tessia is securing fold space, interested to, of course, grab shipping in round 2 if possible. Lido sets up a possible very early Swordmaster, which means that he likely will not be going for the combat this turn. Expecting something like Wealth as the second play. Does he even need that? Yes, he does. quick math problem. But yes, he would get 6 from the second use, which of course he will have to use his ring for in the second round. That would actually be 7. I am silly. That is good enough already. 6 more Solari would be enough for the Swordmaster, so he might be grabbing a piece of spice to set up the use of his ring in the second round. Beast does opt to go for some water control and go still suits, but does not deploy any troops, which is very interesting. Because without the ring, he would have to hope for Hardy Warriors to remain up for grabs. Seek allies from Ilban and very early reveal. Ilban does take wealth, so Tessia chooses to very quickly go for that firm grip. She did have quite a lot of other options as well, but fears for firm grip to be gone too quickly. And next up in the Imperial row is the local fence, which of course allows, I would think, especially Lido and Ilban to benefit a lot from that trading ability. Now it's down to Lido. I would expect a spice grab from either Haga Bison or Imperial Basin. But instead place his diplomacy card to go Hardy Warriors and probably secure this combat pretty safely. He doesn't know that, of course, but Beast has little to go and contest that. He will still go Carthag, I'm assuming. To just go ahead and grab an entry card. And also deny that from Ilban. So he might be, with that second wave being picked up, might be willing to just try and secure this with just 2 troops rather than 3. No, even goes for 1, is content with getting 3rd place. Ilban, of course, after going wealth, would be going for a double draw from Mentat. I missed that the first time around. I was not done commentating on Beast at that time, so I kind of missed his turn a little bit. Lido reveals and has 3 to buy, plus a sword, which will cement his victory in combat even further. And he does grab that local fence. Again, very good card for Lido. Does allow him to trade Solari and spice at pretty good rates, depending on what he needs. Later down the road, he might not need as much Solari, for example, and then he can get a good chunk of spice for 5 Solari. Reveal from Beast, who grabs the Helicopter Joe. One of the 2, anyway. We had a second reveal, and Opulence is available for Ilban, who was perhaps shooting for even the Jessica buy with that double draw. Only in quotation marks gets Opulence, which is also a fantastic card, especially for Ilban. Beast passes, of course. And Lido will secure The first victory point of the game. As a very persistent ruler. Good. Lido now in first position has the perfect setup to go and grab a Swordmaster by going smuggling again. With the Signet Ring, he will not be able to pay for a catch-up on any of the faction tracks, which I think is pretty irrelevant if you are able to get a second turn Swordmaster as Lido, especially. That's absolutely what you want to do in almost any case. Speaking of cases, we do have the what is it called? The X-Guild Compact and the Bounty Hunter coming up next in the Imperial role. There comes the smuggling. Now he has enough to buy a Swordmaster, which nobody can take away. There is no voice. And nobody, of course, has enough to occupy that space themselves. Beast, now with Double Dagger, will be very interested in grabbing this combat, which is going for control of Arakeen, meaning that he will have an extra source of potential Solari income. Who knows how much that's going to be used this game, though? I would say none of the characters are exactly destined to go to Arakeen a lot. But we'll see how that goes. Instead, he does use Dagger, and all 4 players are looking into his discard pile, making sure they know what's in his hand. Probably thinking about contending this combat if it does happen from Beast's side. He does go for a Negotiator and some extra influence that gives him 5 influence total. Instant Mentat again from Ilban. And Tessia does grab access to shipping. As expected, I guess. But did not exactly expect Ilban to just pass up on one point in the faction track. She does decide to discard the dagger. Probably not going to be in combat this turn. But she gets 1 spice, of course, for taking the Snooper token and discarding the card, as per her character ability. And I'm absolutely sorry if I'm not using my mouse to highlight some of the cards. That is probably bad etiquette in terms of commentating. Especially with how small things are. Let me zoom in a little bit more. But I do not want to give away anything that's happening, if possible, with my mouse going over it. Because that might always give some clue to what's going on. So I prefer to just keep my right hand in my lap and not care about moving the mouse in the first place. So Beast will absolutely go into this combat. I'm expecting another Carthag run. No, actually gets 3 cards from Research Station. This might give him it could have given him quite a lot of persuasion. That's the word. Instead, he gets Helicopter Joe, which should very much help him secure this combat. I don't think anybody can challenge that. If he even puts in two troops, he decides to put in nothing. Okay. Is just content with baiting people into believing they can actually get ahead in this combat with 4 troops. But then they would actually win because he... I mean, he does have second wave, I suppose. So this is a big trap setup from Beast here. Another wealth trip from Ilban with opulence, which means he gets 5 Solari in one go. And also the victory point, of course, from the friendship with the Imperium. Is it Imperium? The Emperor? The Emperor, I suppose. You don't have to be friends with the entire Imperium. You just need to be in good graces with the Emperor. Now it's Tessia's turn. She's likely looking to make use of her Signet Ring ability after grabbing shipping. Maybe. Maybe not. Because that would mean she does not have shipping access in the second round. Maybe she's just going to skip using the ring ability. Oh, she does not grab shipping at all. That is very interesting. Maybe she is she's keen on getting Arakeen. See what I did there? Wonderful puns. Commentator, please execute me publicly. Anyway, that is a very interesting trip to Carthag. Is not interested in securing shipping, which also means that she's not going to be using the ring ability, because that would be even more outlandish, I would think. She does grab up heavy... It's not heavy machinery. What is it called? Advanced weaponry, sorry. So she's now able to punt in a extra Dreadnought if she wants to, with 3 Solari, or she can use it as a combat card, but requires a base of, I think, 3 tactiles? Yeah. And currently she has 0, so more likely to see the upper side of that card being used. Seek allies from Lido, getting him another water, which can be a problem with Lido if you don't have enough water and you're just starving yourself in terms of spice as a result. He, of course, has a local fence, so he might be able to circumvent that a little bit, but does want at least 1 water. Puts in 1 troop. Beasts reveals for quite a good amount. I think that's 6. Including the tech negotiation space. And does get power play. And Bounty Hunter is a great card for Beast, I think, because it allows you to always go to a purple space, a city space, and get your troops in, no matter if other people are there. And the extra Solari absolutely cannot hurt. And even if you don't play it, you get a dagger or a sword. Why not? The power play, of course, would not necessarily be used to do the usual power play shenanigans. Oh my god, there's Kwisatz as well. Kwisatz, Jessica, we do have Satellite Band by now as well. Yeah, these are absolutely stacked. Ugh. Wow, what a row. And good old Ilban here has 1 more turn to go, but does currently have 7 in hand. Now he's considering whether there's a way to get to 8, but of course there is not. He gets Jessica, and oh my word, Web of Power is the next card. We have like almost all of the top tier cards in this game, and we're only in round 2. What a game. And he does take 1 in Space Guild. Spacing Guild? The guild. It's Spacing Guild, right? Here comes the reveal from Tessia, who has 3 to buy. The only option would be Liaison or the Compact. And I apologize for any hissing or screaming going on in the background. That is my cats. Please don't be disturbed. They are fine. We just have one very wild cat and one very relaxed cat, and you know how it is. One is up for it, one is not. She does get a liaison for some extra persuasion and access to city and lensrad tiles, not tiles, spaces. Lido, of course, also reveals for 3, has the same options, liaison, or is it X Guild? X Guild Compact. That is the name of the card. See, that's why I don't want to use my mouse cursor, because now my cursor went over X Guild Compact and there was like a suggestion. Oh, look, there's this card. You could get this card. What did the commentators say? Was it anything positive or was it anything negative? Now, I might have influenced him to go and buy that card. Probably not, but that's why I like to remain as neutral as possible. I should not have looked at that card, but it's okay. In the end, of course, I did not say anything outlandish, and I think the X Guild Compact is a solid pickup. A little wonky, I would think, on Lido, but it does give him at least a little more access if he needs it, and allows him to go for techs if necessary. And we do not have a winner for this one, because Beast is perhaps afraid of what is in Tessia's hand. Curious. Curious, because he could have put in a lot more troops there, or a lot more power in general, and could have taken a victory point, but chooses not to do it. Is just happy with denying Tessia the victory point, and remains on 1 victory point. Does now take Haga Basin. Yeah, as I was saying before, the power play, of course, will not be used for the regular shenanigans. Beast will most likely use that for just a quick 1-point grab to go to a space that is, or a faction that gives him 1 victory point by reaching the 2 influence in it. Ilban does not go for Mentat, but instead unlocks the High Council. Which currently is working out for him, as in gives him 6 plus 2 persuasion, and he is threatening to buy that Kwisatz. We have no Helena, we have nobody with a similar amount of persuasion to challenge that. But of course there are other fantastic cards on the board, so it's unclear if that is the best use of your turns, if you skip another one, to get Kwisatz in turn 3. We will see how this plays out. In the meantime, Tessia gets to use her firm grip for the first time, goes to wealth, and bumps her Spacing Guild influence up by 1 more for 2 Solari. Does that work? It does. She does not have any requirements. This is not another card that I'm thinking of, another Emperor card, the Appropriate, I believe. Okay, and Lido is using the X-Guild Compact card to discard both of his convincing arguments to get a Dreadnought. Interesting. So does not want to beef up his deck even further. Beast, in the meantime, is going Mentat to see out this combat and see the round until the end, while Ilban is making the 1-for-1 exchange, 1 persuasion for 1 persuasion, by going to tech negotiations. That is, of course, something he can do. Nobody blocked it, So he just gets 1 extra Negotiator and 1 extra Solari from his ring ability. And is still sitting comfortably on that 8 Persuasion to pick up Kwisatz. Question is, does anybody pick up Web of Power, which I'm assuming is going to happen, between Tessia and Beast? That might be the consideration here for Tessia as well, to reveal early to grab that, but she does not actually have 4 Persuasion yet. Now, do you use your fold space to get another card, hopefully the 4th Persuasion, or will you sign off on it anyway because Beast is waiting there like a looming tiger, sitting on his last Mentat move? He is the only one in combat currently, so Tessia has, I think, quite a lot of options on what she wants to do. She could enter combat in some capacities. She does still have 1 water. She could take the fold space to Hardy Warriors, maybe get the upper hand, but probably not, because there is still Beast, again, waiting. You don't lightly make that 2 Solari sacrifice, I believe, at this stage of the game, if you're not threatening combat domination by waiting out every other player's turns. Lido, of course, also very, very dangerous, though, which he doesn't know necessarily. But Lido could be looking to try and take this combat as well. I believe he will not be able to, though, if Beast decides to play second wave. Speaking of combat, by the way, we are looking at the Terrible Purpose combat, which allows you to trash a card on top of getting a victory point. So far, very lucrative combats, but one was already passed up on. And again, I very much understand the longer thinking period here. I would probably be in the exact same situation because there are so many options for Tessia and so many considerations to make on what other players might be doing, but she finally does grab shipping, does go up twice, and does find the 4th Persuasion that she was likely looking for. Lido, in the meantime, gets a 2nd Dreadnought. Okay, now we're talking serious combat, Lido. That is going to be scary to Beast as well, who decides to spend 2 of his 5 spice to get 2 cards and immediately get rid of a dagger, as well as of course his power play card itself, which will make sure that he does not have to go to Bene Gesserit anymore. He does end up on 7 Persuasion, and Ilban does grab Kwisatz. Tessia, of course, uses this to grab Web of Power. Lido is publicly umming, but does not decide to follow that up with an accusation or the expression of his confusion. Instead, he is just going all in on this combat, I think. Nope, does not even bother to take out the troop. He trusts that Beast will be a good boy and sit back and relax on this combat, which he does not have to. Again, he does have that 2nd wave in hand. Speaking of traps, of course, as mentioned before, it has been very concerning that Beast was not in combat with that 2nd wave grabbing the victory point in the previous combat for Arakeen, but instead chose to tie with Tessia, which could make Lido believe that he does not have a combat intrigue, of course, because, quite frankly, that would have been the perfect time to use a combat card to win that combat, or try to win it at least. We know it would have worked. Beast does not. There's still a very scary card in Tessia's hands that he does not know about. But now he could be grabbing this combat from... Oh no, he could not. He could only tie Lido again, which I think he would not be using the second wave for. Because he could be chucking in the extra troop plus the 2 swords he gets from the second wave itself. That would give him +4. So good move by Lido, I guess. Reading the room correctly. There are 5 cards in Beast's hand. He does have Helicopter Joe. So there was a good reason for concern, although Helicopter Joe would also give Beast the victory here. A little bit of a gamble, but Lido comes out ahead. I'm assuming. Unless Beast, of course, plays second wave to tie. Beast, in the meantime, will get Peter Vries? De Vries? Yeah. For his 7 persuasion. Has 2 more. And these decks are looking so strong. Beast perhaps has the strongest of them all because he was already able to trash a card that he doesn't need. Huh. Does get Fright of Fleet, which does not quite fit the rest of his choices at first glance. And now does pass to not tie Lido, but actually hand him over a victory point and another trash, which might now actually set Lido ahead. In terms of deck building, over 2 of them at least. We'll see how this goes exactly, because Ilban is looking very strong with both Jessica and Kwisatz. As a very scary combo of cards. Especially on somebody like Ilban, will be important for people to be occupying that Mentat space, so we can't easily draw cards, I'm assuming. The thing is, with Opulence, he of course also has the ability to very quickly get to more Solari, to even get to the Dreadnought space. And fuel the Mentat if necessary. And here is Opulence and Jessica in one hand. What a scary hand in round 4. Tessia has her second Fold Space in hand, as well as her Signet Ring. Might be doing some more shenanigans with that. Lido has a visual bug, and here we go. As just displayed, Opulence is being used to acquire more Solari on Ilban's side. And now it's up to the other players to decide how much they want to try and block him. Does somebody grab Mentat? That is going to be one of the key components, I think, of the other 3 players not letting Ilban run away with this too much. Of course, speaking of running away, currently Lido is looking very good with 2 combat victory points already secured. If he now manages to actually find the necessary access and also manages to fuel his Signet Ring to catch up on tracks that he needs to, he's in a very good position to get to at least 7 or 8 points very quickly, and then it's up to his deck providing the necessary means to get to the last 2 points. With 2 Dreadnoughts, he's set up for success. Now Tessia again has a lot of options with that Fold Space in hand. She might be willing to take the Spice before Lido can, because Lido would have gotten a whopping 5 Spice for free. Free as in does not have to pay water for it. So she does take that away from him. Will she skip Signet once again? No, she does reduce the Spacing Guild which she had a faction alliance with. And that will allow her to use get to 3 Solari again. If she crosses the 3 to 4 influence mark one more time. And decides to make her first step into the Fremen friendship. Now here's Leto sitting there with a dreadnought and no troops. Does not have a lot of swords in hand either, but of course with 2 water, he does not necessarily need the Imperial Basin, which would have been wonderful. 5 for nothing is great. Instead he gets 6 from the Great Flat, and will use one of his available spices that he just got from the Imperial Basin being Dreadnought acquired or occupied when Tessia got her spice from there to catch up on the Spacing Guild track, which now also gives him access to shipping as well as another victory point, which sets him up to 5. Far ahead of the other players. He does have 2 friendships, but again, 2 early game victory points from combat like that, very, very dangerous. Ilban might not have enough time to make his extremely strong deck shine. Nobody acquired or occupied Mentat, which of course he will make immediate use of in his second turn. Quite surprising that nobody was grabbing it. Beast instead opted to go for another water. And Tessia will be using her fold space to get shipping one more time and use the amounted spice as well as the discount from shipping to get flagship, which will also set her up to 8 Solari. So next round she might be able to grab the Swordmaster. Does have to trash her fold space. Goes back into the supply and does draw a card accordingly as well, which is a liaison, sets her up to 4 persuasion. By now we have the Smuggler Stopter as well as the Truth Speaker. Is it Truth Speaker? Let me look at the card. A Truth Sayer, of course. And Fremen Camp sitting right there in the middle might be interesting to both Leto and Beast, I would say, most of all. Leto currently considering his plans. He did already deploy his 1 Dreadnought, which is likely not going to win him this combat, he might think. Fact is, the other players so far do not have a lot in terms of combat options either. So we'll see how he progresses from here. He does not have a water for Hardy Warriors though, so no big follow-up coming from that. He's also discarding his only sword to get the Mnemonic Film for some extra persuasion. Now sits at 4, which will allow him to get another Helicopter Joe or the aforementioned Fremen Camp. Although Smuggler Stopter, of course, also is a wonderful card. 2 card draw is always very, very strong. That is already unlocked for him. Going to a harvest space is a little limiting in that regard compared to a 7 persuasion card sitting in Ilban's hand, for example. Taking some quick drinks every now and then, keeping myself hydrated. I'm not used to be talking this much in such a short time. So apologies for that. If there are any breaks in commentary. Bounty Hunter, in the meantime, being used. He was probably waiting for somebody else to take a city space, which did not happen. But he does get a wonderful, what is it called? Emperor's subject? Favorite subject from the Carthage Intrigue card draw, which will allow him to get that victory point from the Emperor track a lot easier. Kind of like a second power play. He just will have to go there, which is quite a bit away now that his diplomacy is out of the way, and he's going to have to draw through his entire deck to see that again, which is currently 7 cards. With the Gunthopter in hand, he does have the potential to get another 6, with second wave even 8 combat strength. So that should be more than enough to beat Lido, unless something dramatic happens. Smuggling in the meantime from Ilban, who is probably sick of just sitting on 2.5, for some reason, mostly 3 actions. Very little respect being paid towards his deck. On the other hand, as I mentioned before, if you spend so much time building your deck during the first 3 turns and get almost nothing else done, you are potentially running behind. And if the game does not go for very long, you will not see that power in play enough. But we will see. It does have a lot of potential here, for sure. Interesting also to see that he chooses not to play Jessica, but instead keeps her in his hand for more persuasion and no card draw instead. He now has 5, 6, 7, 9. Could get Spice and Slow if he wanted to do that. Lido, in the meantime, goes to Secrets, secures a Bribery, which of course is very, very good for him as well. Might give him some early victory points. Beast knows that he's relatively safe, not even putting the second troop in there. In terms of combat strength, Ilban reveals for 9 and does indeed get Spice Must Low. Tessia, bored a little bit, has been out of this round for quite some time. Just watching what the others are doing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she did. She actually bought the Smuggler's Doctor last round. I'm not paying attention. And here goes the Fremen camp to Lido, as suggested before. That is going to help him a lot in terms of getting even more combat power onto the board. Beast and Lido pass. They are the only contenders for combat yet again. But Beast this time comes out ahead, gets a Intrigue card as well as 3 Spice, compared to Lido, who is, in quotation marks, only getting 2 Spice, but he also gets his Dreadnought back. And Double Cross is the Intrigue for Beast, so really looking juicy on that upcoming first level 3 combat, perhaps. That is a lot of combat power that the others have very little idea of. Kwisatz, of course, being the last card, if I'm not mistaken, in Ilban's deck, but it doesn't matter, as he did draw his last 5 cards right there. So that's going to give him potentially a 4th turn if people again decide to pass up on the Mentat, which, as brought up, might be an issue that is creeping up for the other 3 players. Tessia, wonderful wonderful turn when you can play Smuggler's Doctor and get the 2-card draw from going to shipping. That is so much value, so much action compression in that one single turn. That's a lot of value out of that, especially drawing into Convincing Argument and Liaison. She is now sitting on 8 Persuasion. She could dagger to Tech Negotiations to get to 9. Is of course speculating that Ilban will not be able to surprise snatch that Swordmaster, so that would also be something that she could do. So victory point versus victory point versus another action unlocked, which might be very necessary for Tessia. She of course grabbed the last 3 Solari by going to Fold Space yet again last turn, which gave her the reward from getting the the 4th spot with or fourth influence with the Spacing Guild a second time after she had reduced it with her Signet Ring before. Very smart play there, very shrewd. And now it's Lito's turn, sitting on 7 Spice, always threatening Highlander with that. Highliner, not Highlander. And still might not be the best course of action to even go for Highliner, because he will probably never be able to really threaten Tessia unless he gets some interesting cards, either intrigues or perhaps even techs. We will see. It's going to be difficult to acquire, but he will have shipping access for most of the time, starting next turn, if he wants it. We'll see though. Time is running short for all of these players because this is ramping up to be a very, very contested, heavily contested and exciting late game. I'm expecting all hell to break loose during the level 3 combat. Of course, he is currently very content with going for this combat, deploying a Dreadnought if he wins it, because the next one is still a level 2 combat. So then he will have both Dreadnoughts ready again in the level 3 combat that is coming up after that. We are doing a Guild Bank heist. So lots of Solari on the line. Lido is very, very perched, I would say, on Solari. But yeah, for now, just got yet another water. Probably looking up that or eyeing up that Fremen Alliance shortly. Using the Fold Space. He does have Fremen Camp in hand, so he can perhaps try to follow up if he gets the Solari. Which I currently do not see a way to do it though. Beast in the meantime goes to yet another Carthag run. He is now sitting on 4 influence cards, which will of course make him play one of those, so secrets cannot be used to steal intrigue cards from him. Plays the favorite subject, gets 1 point into the influence of the Emperor track, and deploys yet again that very, very suspicious 1 troop that we have seen almost all game from Beast. Ilban, in the meantime, does not take Mentat, but instead chooses to go for the faction alliance with the Emperor and loads up on enough cash to grab the Swordmaster. Ooh! Tessia does not want the Swordmaster, which is not super uncommon, I suppose, for Tessia players. Instead, she goes for more persuasion. And now she would have enough to grab a Spice Maslow if she wanted to. There are, of course, still very, very strong cards in the Imperial row. It does not get worse, somehow. Let's say the by now the Toothsayer and the what is that called? Guild something? The space travel have diminished in value. Boundless Ambition still very valid though, as Lido is going to tech negotiations and grabs invasion ships. And he follows up on the Bene Gesserit, which would probably make Beast convinced that he's not grabbing a faction alliance this game, if he was thinking about that. Next tech is oh so juicy for Beast. For anybody, really. Honestly. Blue got too excited. That is very true, but he is ready to go. He's got that Peter DeVries, Reese, whatever his name is, Peter, ready to go to get to the Dreadnought space and grab spy satellites immediately. What a wonderful tech. Absolutely not a problematic tech at all. Has to pay 3 plus the negotiator. Oh boy. Oh boy. That's 2 secured victory points that Beast did not already have. And he also got the Dreadnought, which will probably come in very useful when contending for upcoming fights with Lido in particular. Beast decides to play another intrigue card, which will give him 1 bump because he discarded the freighter fleet. The intrigue card, of course, came from Peter DeVries. I was confused myself for 1 second. And it is a blackmail that is now making his intrigue hand so dangerous for combats. Because Tessia, of course, did not take Swordmaster, but rather went for High Council, and grabs the Spiceman's Flow as a result. Ilban took the Swordmaster. Mentat somehow still not taken, but of course he does not have the necessary Solari, and was projecting that beforehand that he was not going for the Mentat until he has a Swordmaster. And even though he does have quite a couple, 1 couple, in fact, more actions left, he will not be able to acquire more Solari this turn. Unless he starts out with Kwisatz and draws something like Opulence. Huh? Opulence? Does it give green access? Any spaces left for Opulence that he could go to? Because even Kwisatz can only give him 3 spice at once by going to Haga Basin. That will not be enough for Conspire. He could be... Oh, he can actually redeploy his Wealth Agent to Wealth, and then he can go Mentat if the next card that he draws is blessed with Lancerat access. Lido, in the meantime. I'm saying in the meantime a lot, I feel. Gonna go through this recording and be properly embarrassed, as it should be. But he discards the dagger to invade on another space, which means he's probably not going to deploy troops with Fremen Camp. but goes for shipping. He might, of course, still get more troops, but he won't be deploying them. Interestingly enough, troop transport still up for grabs as well, which might have to do with Tessia not deciding to hog that space quite as much as she could have. And also, of course, she used the power of shipping for that victory point from flagships instead. So, yes, Leto will be spending 3 spice. 2 spice? For some reason, I saw 3 being spent, but of course he only had 2. So he spends his 2 spice to get 3 more troops in, which gives him a big fat garrison. And yeah, at this point, even Ilban is very dangerous for the upcoming combat. Tessia, I think she knows she has a weak stand with even with the advanced weaponry in hand. Beast in the meantime revealing again, there it is. Beast revealing for 4 persuasion, getting the truth sayer that has been laying there for quite a while, and revealing yet another powerhouse card, of course, because that's how we roll today, with the shifting allegiances. Now, Ilban, again, he could be gambling for Lancerat access and redeploy to wealth using Kwisatz, or he can play it a little more conservatively, go to something like Haga Basin. He might even go to smuggling to set up for a bump next turn, if he decides to go smuggling once again. He can also go Spacing Guild, of course, and get shipping access. But the dealer marker, as I like to call it, as a seasoned poker player, and it kind of is like that in a lot of ways, especially in terms of strategy. The dealer marker just passed him, so he's still gonna have to wait a while to make a move. He does take the spice from Haga Basin and decides to deploy 2 troops. I'm not sure if he's expecting to get second place, but considering how the game has been going so far and how Beast has been doing his things, I guess you would expect him to actually hold on to all of those 3 intrigues for the late game combat. He now moves his Swordmaster deployed troop to selective breeding and gets 3 cards in total after trashing something that I didn't see. I think it was his dagger. Yeah, it must have been his dagger. He trashed the card they used to go to Swordmaster. Gets the voice very late. It's still cost effective by any means. I mean, can never go wrong with 2 persuasion for 2 persuasion. But yeah, the agent space action ability, card ability, of course, will be not as effective as before, unless you can get a really, really shrewd play in there. We'll see if he gets to see the card in the first place. I'm talking about voice more than I have been about the other mega cards that he has picked up. So here we go. Professional commentator for Dune Imperium right here. Beast, the question of questions that we will see a lot until the end of the game probably. Loves his intrigue cards more than he loves winning combats. All about that late game, baby. But it looks like the 2 dreadnoughts from Leto might be good enough again. Question for Beast, of course, is what would I want to sacrifice, and would I gain even anything I am particularly interested in? Now this is where, of course, you start contemplating, do you want to get some extra Solari to perhaps secure Mentat? He decides against it, gets 2 Solari as a result, as the 3rd placed player. And here goes another Dreadnought. This time to Carthag. Beast, of course, is also receiving 2 Solari. As mentioned, the 4 Solari have already been picked up. And 6 Solari as well. Moving into round 6, which is another victory point. It is the Imperial Basin control combat, which is called Secure Imperial Basin. Names. They're important. Yeah. I just see the very casual wiggling of mouse cursors on Lido's hand by Lido, then also by Ilban. I don't know what their voice chat is like, but Lido currently is probably appalled by this ugly hand. He gets to do very little with that. The X-Guild Compact card at this point is also very, very questionable in use. He can at least use it to infiltrate another space, but oof. Big oof. He does not have enough water to go to Research Station to draw more cards that he could properly deploy. Instead, he is probably forced to go Arakeen just to get another card. Otherwise, that is a pretty dead hand. He could gamble a little bit and go to shipping with Dune. In the meantime, let me focus. I said it again. Damn. Let me focus on the other players' hands, because Ilban, very interesting, has Jessica again, as well as Opulence. And Beast, of course, again, that looming tiger, just always waiting to pounce on the next combat. And I think this should be a combat that he gets involved in. Even though he has some pretty formidable and scary looking foes in maybe Tessia, but especially Lido, of course, with that huge garrison. And still another Dreadnought. Can also invade. He doesn't know how bad Lido's hand is, unless Lido was commentating on it in voice chat. Who knows? Actually, I believe Beast is not in voice chat, so he wouldn't know. If he knew, we would probably also know. So Beast has been extremely patient. Okay, I don't know if it seemed like I was criticizing him for his place. I am as clueless as the next mediocre player about anything that's going on. Maybe there's some major thing coming up yet, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm playing favorites or hitting on any player. I absolutely do not mean to, and I would be interested to see what is happening with. I would be interested to see what is happening with Beast's upcoming turns. It looks like the players have discussed oh no, sorry, I missed it. Lido used bribery to get the water reward from Fremen. Very shrewd play that allowed him to go to Research Station. And Beast, again, all in character, playing the pouncing tiger, the looming tiger, plays Bounty Hunter to immediately go Research Station as well. Gives him 2 Solari, gives him 3 more cards. Now he has a huge selection of cards, has some very strong battle cards in hand as well. Does not even need to do the whole intrigue thing if he plays his cards right. And that's what I was getting at earlier. He has been exceptionally patient. I don't know if he has been too patient, but like this patience might pay off in the end because people are underestimating what he has. Problem is, of course, Lido is already sitting at 7 points and he might not even be winning that tier 3 combat in the first place. Ilban, I'm very much not commentating, I'm theory crafting, so here we go. Ilban finally back to his old self, gets the Mentat space, which gives him more cards to play with, gets the voice that he just picked up, that I commented on so vividly. We'll see if he gets to play it, but I think this might be a turn where he's playing Jessica rather than keeping it for the influence. Such a strong card in either way. Absolutely fantastic card. Not great game-breakingly strong in my opinion, but absolutely can determine the course of a game. Not this game, of course, because wow, the Imperial role has been fantastic for all players all throughout. A web of power in play, shifting allegiances. I'm just looking at the current hands and I don't even look at the entire decks, but I don't think any of these players is starved for good cards. Even though Ilban, of course, with Jessica, Opulence, and Kwisatz is supposed to have the strongest deck. Will he be able to still make use of it? Or will Lido be able to grab the first tier 3 victory and perhaps run away with the game? And then, of course, the question is who is going to be second? Tessia, very quiet in the background, has been securing second place so far. She does have an alliance with the Spacing Guild that has been vastly uncontested, and 2 points just looming there. And honestly, with 3 Snoopers still on the board, she has a lot of potential. We have a lot of potential with a lot of these players in general. But very little done so far. And it might be too late for some of them to get their power on the board. Lido, luckily, has some proper cards to play now. Found that entryway into a better turn after having that horrible start with the bribery play for more water. I'm very sad that I missed that because that was really, really good. And with all of the talking, I am in fact very thankful, Glacier, for the complicated turn, which I can absolutely see. That is a lot of options. You can buy spice with the local fence and enter combat, perhaps try to secure combat with that. You could be using shifting alliances to grab more points, something that Beast does not have to worry about now anymore. The scoreboard, of course, is saying he's currently on 3 points, but thanks to Spice Satellites, he is on 5. Nobody has any victory point intrigue so far. Beast might have tried to get them, or at least it seemed that way because he was grabbing a lot of intrigues. Plus, he has Peter DeVries as well. But instead, he is set up for the full combat shenanigans play. Lido, in the meantime, I said it again. There should be a counter, shouldn't there? There should be a counter of me saying how many times can Unfussable get through this game, saying in the meantime, in context, but regardless is another great word. I could instead substitute it for that. I love how cut out this section is going to be. Lido is going with the shifting allegiances. It's still not sure, but he is going with the shifting allegiances. Grabbing 2 more troops and using the just acquired spice to go down with what? Probably Fremen. Maybe not. Maybe that would be dangerous, but it does give him the potential for 1 more extra water if he goes back up with the Fremen, which might be very, very lucrative and interesting to him here. And so far there's been very low pressure on these faction tracks, contrary to my initial expectation. And he does go down with the Fremen. Indeed, goes up with the Bene Gesserit, question mark. For a moment it looked like he was going to try to go up with 2 different factions, which of course is illegal. The little bump symbol on the right shows that there's 1 faction that can go up twice rather than 2 factions going up once, but he does do it correctly. Brain hurts, I can very much understand. Comes from a place of great understanding and emotional connection. Truthsayer, in the meantime, is being used for another access to the Bene Gesserit faction. I would think that... Ooh, okay. I was thinking that Beast was done with that faction. Maybe just wants enough to... Okay, interesting. Maybe he just wants enough persuasion, which is why he's drawing so many cards from Research Station, from there as well. He does not have any agents left, so this is it. He got to 2, 3, 5, 8, 10 persuasion, which means he will be able to get a Spice Must Flow, but does not seem to be interested. Ooh, see. I was mentioning how the voice can probably not be used very effectively here, and of course Tessia is the only person who does not have a Swordmaster. That's actually not true. Beast also does not have a Swordmaster, but who is currently interested in a Swordmaster. And Ilban actually is able to deny her Swordmaster, especially with Mentat already blocked. That feels horrible. If that happens early in the game and you left out other things to rush for a Swordmaster, that can absolutely destroy somebody if they can't get to Swordmaster, if they are in a good position for it. Tessia instead will now use her action to go fetch that second hardy, the second influence with the Fremen. Hardy Warrior being used to deploy a total of 6 troops. 7 troops with flagship. Tries to grab this combat, which she may be able to. Beast does not have any more significant additions to this. Could go all in for 1 victory point, which would be very not in line with his playstyle, or with their playstyle so far. I'm saying his as in his the character, and she as in she the character Tessia. Not making assumptions about the players. I'll always refer to them as they, if I'm not sure. And Tessia will also bring a Dreadnought to the table, which further cements her leading position in this combat. And if she manages to grab that, that might very well be a good outlook for the second place. Again, though, depends on Lido, of course, if he manages to finalize his victory run here. Has had a fantastic game so far, I think. Has built a very good deck for his purposes. The local fence, even though it was not used, is now perhaps coming into play to get some more spice. Signet ring, of course, coming up in his remaining 4 cards. And he would want some spice with that. Now the question is, what do you want to do with a space in the city? He does discard his X-Guild Compact, which gives him 2 negotiators. We do have training drones, troop transports, and what's the name of this tech? I forgot. Spaceport. Currently in the offer, but he will grab, I think, none of those. None of those are too interesting to him. Yeah, he goes down and up. So he does get 1 more bump and more troops. I mean, troop transports could have been interesting, I guess. But that does not seem to be what he's looking at in the first place, considering he is saving up troops in the first place. He is asking whether the X-Guild Compact, the Negotiator deployment is required or not. I think it is, because I do remember a couple of stories of people getting drained from having troops available. But I actually do not know. I do know that trashing is optional. I'm not 100% on the negotiator. I think it is mandatory. Now Beast is revealing for 10. We'll grab Spice Must Flow. I believe it is 10. And because he does not have any more troops, he does not quite manage to overtake Lido for second place on the combat. Did he get his bump with the shipping track? He does choose to use double cross this time. Okay. Interesting. Now see, I'm not sure about this. I said I didn't criticize before, but this is a weird time. Because you could have gotten a cheaper victory point from Tessia before. Because this looks like he is challenging Tessia. And currently that would mean that he has to play both of those cards to overtake her. Because she does have 1 more dagger in hand. So, oof. Oof. Unfortunate turn of events. Okay, he knows. He does go up. Maybe setting up to overtake Lido's dominance in the Bene Gesserit track. We will see. Again, he does not really care about the first victory point since he has spy satellites, so he can use blackmail very freely. Does not matter to him whatsoever. He could just go back on what he gained from favorite subject, for example. Emperor does not have any requirements for any cards, at least that he has. And here comes the Jessica play to Arakeen for even more card draw, trying to get to 9 or finding that. I think Ilban is quite happy with that draw, finding Kwisatz. And Tessia reveals to get a free bump, which will give her the 3rd Snooper token and a double bump with the Bene Gesserit faction. Otherwise, chooses to buy nothing. And now Lido is sitting on an unfortunate 8 persuasion. He could, however, use Water of Life to draw another 3 cards, which would very likely set him over. I think almost guaranteed. Yeah, that's pretty guaranteed. Set him over the required 9 for a Spice Must Flow. It's a little unfortunate. That is such a strong card that you could use in future turns as well. And of course, the Signet Ring is also now down the drain. But it is a victory point, and he needs 1 more to end the game, which means the first Tier 3 combat, as expected, will be ending this game for sure. Ilban, in the meantime, improves his deck even further, draws even more cards, gets another action, which gives him 2 bumps with 2 different factions, gives him 2 points. And a Spice Must Flow as well. Ilban is also using Opulence. That is 4 points in 1 turn. Absolutely fantastic. Wonderful play. Will it be enough is the question. I think a lot depends on what the next hand is going to be. If Ilban can make use of his extremely strong deck. He still has a point lying in the Fremen friendship. And Beast indeed uses 3 cards to get control over Imperial Basin. Over Tessia. He is very starved for victory points in the first place. Currently only has... Well, it's not only anymore. Now that he wins this combat, he has 7, is tied with Tessia. So there's definitely value in this combat, don't get me wrong. The criticizing is coming in when looking at what he has left now for this upcoming level 3 combat. He went from Looming Tiger to Little Kitty Cat. Does not have anything to bring to the table other than maybe Helicopter Joe, which is not a lot. Which means he basically gave away the last combat of the game when he could have instead only played second wave and gotten a victory point earlier. Again, it is very easy to say from up here though, because I also saw Tessia's card and he might have been afraid of that. He as in Beast again. Not the player. Cool. We have a reasonable hand on Ilban. Not the strongest. Tessia. Chose not to go for the Swordmaster in the first place. Beast could theoretically get Swordmaster. The question is, how is that going to make him acquire any more victory points? He needs to find more Spice Must Flows to have any chance at 3rd place. I don't think he's going to get to 2nd place. But we will see what this round brings. The combat is Grand Vision, which means a double bump with any of the factions. And that leaves open a couple of alliance steals. And Beast will actually follow through with his plan from before and continue challenging this alliance for the with the Bene Gesserit. Thing is, he has a very, very bad hand with not a lot of flexibility. Yeah, I think that's the better play. Because this is the more interesting, to other players, of course, the more interesting space, and it also gives you a little more in terms of flexibility on where to go next. Thing is, because he does not have access to shipping, he will have to hope for people to leave smuggling open to be able to use his shipping position in the first place. He is using finesse to secure the Bene Gesserit alliance for now, so that is a big find for him on the intrigue card that he got from the Bene Gesserit 4th influence point. And this remains pretty close. Yeah, and Leto is not happy. Is not happy with that intrigue, that one intrigue that is being drawn, allowing Beast to overtake him on the Bene Gesserit faction. Ilban forgoes Mentat to drop his shipping down. Gives him one more bump. He's probably going to take that with the Fremen, I'm assuming. Maybe, maybe not. He does need more cards, for sure, from his wonderful, wonderful deck. Opulence is going to give him one more point. That's why he needed the extra Solari, I'm assuming. But he now desperately needs more cards as well. Tessia using a dagger to go Mentat, which I think is a very shrewd and smart play. Because that's going to disallow Ilban to continue engaging in any nefarious activities that are unlocked by his character. And now Leto is again facing a difficult question on what to do. He needs this combat if he wants any chance to reacquire the Bene Gesserit alliance, or at least get a point with Emperor that nobody can contest. And the thing is, if he wants the alliance, honestly, you are, if you're Leto, you're kind of competing for, are you competing for first place? Or is Ilban actually going to pull ahead with this enormous deck, even in round 7? I would have expected the game to last at least 8 rounds for Ilban to win, for that deck to come to full fruition, but that massive 4-point turn came earlier than expected. Okay, he's using shifting allegiances, which makes a lot of sense to regain control of the alliance, I'm assuming. That way he won't have to block smuggling, and Beast can go ahead and frolic somewhere else on somebody else's faction track. He will have to go up and down on the shipping and get the spice. Yep, spend 2 spice. Probably go down with the Fremen. Okay, he could have taken an extra water. Instead he takes the extra intrigue, which will not help him a lot. The guild authorization, I don't think he's going to be able to challenge Spacing Guild, but we'll see. I have absolutely lost the big X-ray vision, no longer in control of everything that is happening, or no longer have a full grasp. So I'll leave it up to the players to figure out their own turns, and they will be a much better judge, of course. on what they can do and what they cannot. So not sure whether Lido might be able to challenge that alliance as well. I mean, if he wins combat, maybe. We'll see. Beast, in the meantime, I said it again, takes Carthage for another intrigue. I think this is the 7th or 8th intrigue, if I'm not mistaken, that he's drawn this game. 7th, maybe? 8th? Quite a lot between Peter de Vries and going to Carthage so many times. It's always interesting to see beasts with intrigues, because it does change the gameplay from dominant force to the looming tiger. He does get one extra troop from the signet ring, deploys both of them. I don't know how effective that's going to be. Probably hoping for the 3rd place. Ilban, in the meantime, uses his ring to get to Arakeen. He needed more cards, and he found Jessica. Now it's all about drawing Kwisatz for him, I would believe. And he needs 2 more points somehow. He does have 1 more point waiting in Fremen, but because he didn't take a bump with that earlier through shipping, if I recall correctly, I don't even know what exactly he was doing at that time with his bump. But yeah, here comes Tessia for the first time this game, I believe. She has 3 actions. Very different feeling. Round 7 is a good time to start that. Now she's going to be looking to find a way to get to 2nd place. I don't think she's contending for the top spots, for the top spot anymore. That's from what I can tell between Lido and Ilban. But if she can beat one of them, then she has a safe way into the quarterfinals. 8 points might not be enough in 3rd place. There are other people who are likely scoring better than that. So interested to increase her value in whatever capacity she can. Which makes this tournament so exciting. Black Shadow is talking about it a lot as well. How the gameplay changes and the meta changes in a tournament setting. Because people are no longer just playing to win and then they just throw or whatever it is. And it's a little more than just vanity to get to 2nd or 3rd place. This actually decides between survival and downfall in this tournament. 3 more troops from Lido, who is going to pick up 1 more water. Probably planning to go Grand Flat for some extra spice and troop deployment, and then hoping to be able to secure this combat, which will set him to 10 victory points as he grabs the Emperor friendship. Beast probably not the happiest with his turn. Unfortunately, was not able to get to Swordmaster soon enough. And again, a move of desperation, I would say, in the last turn, using his 3 very, very strong combat abilities to gain comparably little. Then also made a wrong move on the Bene Gesserit. Was not able to secure it completely. And Lido just took over again. Now Jessica coming out, 2 tech negotiations, which sets him to 6, 7, 8 persuasion. That is not enough, I believe. It is. Tech negotiations is the 9th point. So Ilban gets 2 more points as well. And that will actually mean that if Lido manages to win this combat, he will win the game because of Grand Flat. I do not have the full overview, though, over how this combat is going to go. He will deploy 2 more troops to Great Flat, of course. Little contention over how much strength she actually has. She will end up with 10 strength, and he will definitely be able to beat that. Ilban does not have anything. Yeah, it looks like this is a fairly safe way to go for Lido. He just needs to grab Great Flat, deploy 2 troops. He wins the combat, gets the Emperor point, and that sets him to 10 victory points and enough spice to beat Ilban in a tiebreaker. He, of course, can also deploy more troops if he wanted to. He does not need more spice, but this is, of course, a gamble. Why did you deploy 1 more troop? Okay. He did not deploy the 2 troops that he was already able to deploy from going to Great Flat, which I think is a little mistake on his part, but it should not come back to haunt him either way. Ilban reveals, gets a Spiceman's Flow, gets the extra point from Opulence, and Tessia also gets to 9 points, which is just not enough. Wow. All right. That ends combat. And Lido will actually come out ahead with 10 victory points and 4/2 spice against Ilban. Tessia being 3rd with 9 victory points, and Beast, I think, has 7, if I'm not mistaken, thanks to spy satellites. The extra intrigue that was drawn for both 1st and 2nd place does not matter. There's no extra victory point there. Of course, well, actually, Tessia might have won the game there. If she drew something like Corner of the Market, she would have also gone up to 10, and she does have 1 more spice than Lido. But is unfortunate with the intrigue draw. Let's see what the players have to say about this one.
That was crazy.
Wow. What a game. Well done, everyone.
Literally.
Oh. Thanks for the show. That was quite something. The Imperial row, like, not degrading at all over time. And
no, that was crazy.
Ilban spending the first 3 turns basically doing nothing but acquiring cards. And then it's like, it's a race against time. If this game goes to round 8, Ilban wins automatically with that deck. If it doesn't, oof, so close. And then also Tessia, of course, with the last intrigue draw. If that was Corner of the Market or something that gave her a victory point, she would have won with the spice tiebreaker. Wait, I actually completely missed that Hjorth, of course, has won this game by spice, because he did get 3rd place. Yeah, that is significant. Wow. I completely missed it.
Yeah, that was a great game.
So Hjorth won, and oh no, Lido has actually given away the victory by spending spice on extra troops and not even deploying the 2 troops he would have been able to deploy anyway, which would have already been enough to win. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
Oh my god,
actually
that's true.
I was worried that Urban would use Quizettes to come into combat, so I just went in with everything I had.
Yeah, it's hard
Wow.
to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter. Because first and second place, of course, will automatically advance to the quarterfinals. Tessia will have to wait a little longer. HeccinGoober coming out with 20 points from the group stage, perhaps facing the strongest opposition so far. I think you already also had some questionable luck with the persuasion count in the beginning and your positioning. Like Ilban was just able to grab everything from you.
I had a few. I think I made one misplay going in for the point combat when there was. Well, there were multiple times when I just got a bit unlucky where there was the risk of people drawing cards like the Beast drawing Gunthopter in the point combat round early on. And if he doesn't draw the Gunthopter there, I get the point. And if he does, it's kind of bad for me. And there were a few of those situations where I just ended up on the wrong side of the stick, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Beast, you had second wave in an earlier encounter with Tessia for a point. Chose not to play it. Perhaps you were afraid of Tessia's intrigue card. I'm not sure.
Beast isn't here in Void.
Beast is not here. Oh yeah. So when you tied for the victory point and you both just got Solari instead, Beast could have played second wave to win that, and that would have given him a point. Instead, he later had to play 3 very strong combat cards to get that same victory point, basically, and control over Imperial Basin. So that was a little questionable. Otherwise, what a fantastic game. Everyone played so well. A little blunder in the end, of course, from Lido. But again, it doesn't matter. First and second place are very interchangeable.
Yeah, because if I got second place, I would beat Tessia by tiebreaker as well. So I thought that was fine.
Oh, in the combat. Right.
Yeah, I was actually trying to end the game on round 6. Fortunately, I didn't go in because I saw Tessia go in. I was planning to go troop transports, and I think I would have ended around 15. But the Beast had like 18, right? I think at the end.
I think it came out on a Beast had 18, yeah.
That was so scary, man.
The entire game was just really, really tense. I feel you. And I was like, when you were like, sorry, this is a complex turn, I was like, yeah, I know. I would be in the same situation. That was good. Good stuff. Thank you very much for playing. Congratulations to Hjorth and Glacier. And HeccinGoober, best of luck to you getting third place. Feel sorry for Beast because I loved that I called it the Looming Tiger gameplay because he was just holding on to his intrigues, and you never knew with this very conspicuous 1 troop entrance into combat for like the first 6 rounds or so. You never knew what was coming. Gunthopter, of course, being in the deck as well. That was absolutely hilarious to watch. Unfortunately, did not join you in the top 3. But yeah, thank you very much for playing, and I hope this recording will be able to get used. This was my first time hosting or commentating in the first place. I hope
I can't wait to watch it.
Or I hope
Somebody
somebody
watch it.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to. At least I made a recording, so even if it doesn't go on YouTube, I suppose I can share it with the group at least. But what was I going to say? Yeah, again, I missed that Hjorth, of course, won, so that was a big blunder on my part. Everyone had a blunder, I guess. But what was I going to say? I hope you made screenshots because I did not. I do have the recording, of course, so I guess that's forgivable. If necessary, I can just take screenshots from the recording.
Yeah, so I think I remember Black Shadow saying there's no ID.
There's no
for
token.
these,
This is just manual based on the screenshots.
Yeah.
I got it, thanks.
All right, you
GGs,
guys do
everyone.
the reporting. Thanks again for playing, and good luck going forward.